Okay, we're on air. 5:30.
Good evening, and welcome to the North Rock School District Special Meeting and Workshop. At this time, are there any public comments? Are there any public comments? Are there any public comments? This meeting will officially come to order with the superintendent, a proud superintendent, Dr. Gregory Pulaski. At this time, Ms. Colquitt, would you call the roll?
Mrs. Williams,
Here.
Mrs. Wonka,
Here.
Dr. Retta,
Here.
Mrs. McLean,
Here.
Ms. Temple, Ms. Carson West,
Barely.
Mr. Still.
Here.
The executive closed.
Executive session. Executive closed session per North Rock School District Policy 1.14A, stating that private or closed discussions by the board may occur as part of a regular or special board meeting. Executive sessions may be held only for the purpose of considering employment, appointment, promotion, demotion, discipline, or the recognition of an employee, or to discuss matters of pupil punishment, if requested by parent or legal guardian. No resolution, agreement, or motion considered in the executive session shall be legally binding unless the board reconvenes in the public session and presents that item for vote of the membership. Further, Arkansas Code Title 25, Chapter 19, Section 1062C1 states, the specific purpose of the executive session shall be announced in public before going into executive session. Please join me in the executive closed session for discussing the following matters: employment, appointment, promotion, demotion, discipline, or recognition of an employee.
for me out here tomorrow. Nobody? Gotcha. I remember that. I was playing.
You just want to say action items?
Yes.
If you just want to say action items.
Okay, at this time, Dr. Paluski, action items.
Madam President, members of our Board of Education, action item 5.1 is the employment of personnel. The superintendent recommends the employment of personnel as discussed in executive closed session.
Madam President,
Yes.
I so move that we accept the employment of personnel.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second that we accept the recommendation from the superintendent on personnel. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. The motion is carried. Next item, please.
Yep, Madam President, the next action item is 5.2, the 7th Street Elementary School reconfiguration and transformation plan. As you know, we've held a variety of forums. We had an opportunity to connect with the community, with some parents. I'm bringing this action item forward tonight for the recommendation, which includes the following. The superintendent recommends the 7th Street Elementary School reconfiguration and transformation plan proposal as amended to not include the renaming of the school at this time based on community feedback.
Madam President, I so move that we accept the recommendation that Dr. Paluski has stated for the 7th Street Elementary reconfiguration and transformation plan that did not include the renaming of the school.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second that we accept the recommendation of the superintendent at 7th Street Elementary School reconfiguration and transformation plan proposal, and that the renaming of the school will come at a later time. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. The motion is carried.
Thank you, Madam President. Members of the Board of Education, action item 5.3, the 7th Street Elementary School reconfiguration and transformation stipend resolution. Mr. Smith, if Mr. Smith wants to come forward. Just to give you a high-level overview, Mr. Smith, after that, the board voted to go to LPPC. They have, under Mr. Smith's leadership, had an opportunity to discuss, and it's my understanding they voted in favor of the stipend. Is there anything that you wanted to add, Mr. Smith?
No, sir, there's nothing that's changed that wasn't presented to the board last time.
Thank you, sir.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I move that we approve the 7th Street Elementary reconfiguration, transformation, stipend resolution.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second that we accept the recommendation from the superintendent of the resolution at this time. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? None. The motion is carried. Thank you. Next item, Ms.
Madam President, members of our Board of Education, the superintendent recommends action item 5.4, SB and Early Education Learning Center. Under Dr. Hooper's leadership, as you know, that we've been providing a variety of support structures to support 7th Street Elementary School. This recommendation is a consultant that's been working with us to provide a lot of assistance instructionally, especially right before testing.
Have a motion, please.
Madam President,
Yes.
I so move that we accept the literacy and intervention support, a recommendation by the 7th Street Elementary School.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second that we accept the recommendation of an early education learning center. Those in favor say aye. Opposed? None. The motion is carried. Next item.
Yes, ma'am. Madam President, members of our Board of Education, action item 5.5, Community Service Learning Partnership. The superintendent recommends, as you know, there are times that we'll have additional community applications so that students can acquire service learning credit.
Madam President,
Yes.
I so move that we accept the Community Service Learning Partner applications by the Police Athletic League, the England Volunteers, and the Baptist Hospice.
Second.
It has been moved and properly second that we accept the recommendation from the superintendent for the community service learning partners applications that are presented to the board. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. The motion is carried. Thank you.
Madam President, members of our Board of Education, the superintendent recommends action item 5.6, the Crestwood Elementary School Recognition Fund, which includes $24,200.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I so move that we accept the Crestwood Elementary School Recognition Fund, funding 2022.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and properly second that we accept the recommendation of the superintendent, Crestwood Elementary School recognition funding for 2022. All in favor say aye. Opposed? None. The motion is carried. Dr. Paluski?
Madam President, members of our Board of Education, action item 5.7, the superintendent recommends the use of, the purchase rather, of North Little Rock High School iMac computer labs for purchase. There will be 60 new iMac computers, which will be utilized in 2 classrooms at North Little Rock High School. Department of Career and Technology Education, which has approved the proposed project and purchase.
Madam President,
Yes.
I so move that we accept the iMac computer lab purchase.
Second.
It has been moved and properly second that we accept North Little Rock High School IMAX computer lab purchase. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. The motion is carried.
Madam-
Thank you.
Madam President, members of our Board of Education, the superintendent recommends action item 5.8, the Chromebook purchase, as presented in public this evening.
I move that we accept the superintendent's recommendation to purchase Chromebooks for the district.
Second.
It has been moved and properly second that we accept the recommendation of the superintendent for Chromebook purchase. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. The motion is carried.
Madam,
Dr. Paluski?
Madam President, members of our Board of Education, the last action item is action 5.9. Superintendent recommends a Clear Touch Light Speed project.
I move that we accept the superintendent's recommendation that we purchase the Clear Touch and Light Speed project.
Second.
It has been moved and properly second that we accept 5.9 Clear Touch and Light Speed project. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. The motion is carried. At
Ma-
this time,
Madam,
Madam Chair, I move that we adjourn and go
Right.
into workshop.
Second.
it's been moved and properly second that we adjourn. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Opposed? None. The motion is carried. At this time, we will officially go into our workshop.
I think that was the fastest board meeting we've had.
that is.
Okay.
20 minutes, we accomplished a lot.
Rolling through it.
Madam President, as we begin our first item, I would like to take a moment, if I may, to recognize our community that has had a horrible tornado come through last week. We feel for our families. We feel for our students that have experienced trauma at this time. I'm proud to say that Amboy Elementary School, which was without power, had been out most of the day, will be open tomorrow. The teachers were there. They're excited. I've seen them a couple times today. They're very, very excited to get back and welcome our students back tomorrow. So we'll be in complete, complete operations. I specifically want to recognize our Deputy Superintendent, Dr. Hooper, Chief Finks, and the entire leadership team for moving. As you all know, we were out of town, and I applaud their leadership and quick action that saved lives at the end of the day. So I'm very proud of all of them and their leadership. I just wanted to take a couple minutes, Madam President, and make that quick statement. Anybody else want to add anything, and then we'll jump right in?
Okay.
We just thankful for everybody here, and we just have a real cohesive group here.
True leadership.
I once read that individually we're a drop, but together we're an ocean. And I saw
I
the
like that.
power of an ocean in this last week as we all came together the teachers, the staff, everybody, all the employees of North Little Rock, and the people, the loving, caring people of this community came together. And we're going to be stronger, I think. Thank all of y'all.
Amen. Okay, we'll get right after it. So, Madam President, members of our Board of Education, our first information item is our interim assessment data, and I'm going to turn that over to our colleague, Mrs. Yaw McNulty, who's our Coordinator of Accountability Assessment and Data Management. We do apologize that this is winter data in which you're going to see that it's being presented in April, but we had to move some things around. But we did want to give you a little bit of a snapshot as we get ready to test within a week. Mrs. McNulty, it's all yours.
All right. Well, good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
It's good to see you all during this interesting time that we've had, but glad to see everyone. And as you spoke about, just the togetherness has been pretty amazing. But just ready to share with you our winter outcomes and just to be able to talk about, what our data looks like and have some discussions around it. So we'll just jump right into it if it's okay. All right, technical issues, but it's working now, so here we go. Our goal today really is to look at our analysis and also to look at our participation rates and results, and also to look at our strategic recommendations moving forward. We have been working really hard, and so I look forward to sharing some of that information with you. If you could see, our testing window, as Dr. Paluski mentioned, is around January 2nd through the 17th. But what I am proud to share with you is that our build-in test coordinators have really been working really hard this year to look at testing environment, testing processes, testing protocols, and because of the training that they've received and just been really supportive in listening and hearing feedback, we have been seeing greater outcomes and just creating better practices overall. And so you can see a copy of our training linked to this presentation. The next bullet that I want to point to is that when we talk about NWEA assessment, what we have is the national average growth for school is 50 to 55%. When you have students meeting 50 to 55% of their projected rate growth, that means that we are moving along with the national norms. So that is the number that we want to aim for. The purpose of our assessments overall is really to determine what does the data tell us? How effective are we when we talk about curriculum, our resources, to be able to determine, is the resources working for our kids? Do we need to look at other outcomes? We're also able to look at pedagogy, teaching styles, teaching practices that our teams have been supporting our leadership with as well as our teachers with. So that's been huge and important when we talk about, just those best practices that should be utilized in our classrooms. And last but not least, looking at the scope and sequence, and are they being followed? And how is that affecting the outcomes of our performance? And so when we take all of that information, it allows us to be able to make a determination about our next steps and how we use that results to move our students. So in looking at the data, as you can see, there's the link of our district-wide data, but this is our overall analysis. One of the things I have to share with you is that we are testing so many students this year as compared to the previous year. Testing more students is essentially important because it tells us a lot, and it also tells us that we can at least have a better picture of where our students are at. And so you will see a little bit more about our participation rates as we move forward. The other piece that I think is important to share with you, and this is just our transparency, is that our achievement percentile, we've noticed, is not where it needs to be. And we have seen a drop when we look at our fall and winter data outcomes, and that's been typical for our district. Shouldn't be the norm, but this is the data that we have. But on the plus side, I have a celebration. And so the celebration is, while our achievement is not quite there, we do have a higher rate of our students meeting their projected rate growth than they have in previous years. And so eventually when we look at that, those little celebrations will help to build commitment for our professional staff to keep going so that we can get this work done. Another thing that I would like to share is that science continues to be an area that is a strength in our district, and so you'll see that data outcome as well. Overall, our goal is to continue to grow more of our students and also to look at our tier 1 and what is happening within our tier 1 supports for our kids. That core area is huge, and so we want to tackle that quite a bit. So let's go ahead and take a look at our participation rates. As I stated, the state requires 95%. Take a look at the data we have. 97% for math, 97% for reading, and then 95% for science. I will say that some schools went as high as 99%. So it's really, I mean, our BTCs and overall school leaders, everybody's working hard to make sure that we're testing as many students as possible. For the 2 schools that did not meet the 95%, we know who they are and we know where they are. One was super close, and another one had a circumstance with evacuation and all of that played into it. But that again is with our NWEA data. We know that if we can have this practice and look at these outcomes, when it comes to ACT Aspire, we're going to be just fine. And so we're feeling very solid about that. I'd like to also point out to you that one of the things that we have been working extremely hard on is individualized goal setting for all students. And we talked, I remember when I first came to the board to share information about just where we are with our testing and kids understanding the purpose of the assessment, the why, and what the benchmarks that they should be reaching for, and also sitting down with their teachers to talk about how will I meet my goals that I set. We talked with our BTCs, and I am happy to say that 85% of our student body did individualized goal setting across the district. And it's so important because it's powerful, because it allows the kids to own their data and understand that we are, expecting them to work and reach those goals. And so I wanted to share that piece with you as well. So now let's dig into the elementary schools and outcomes. So this is our math data. As you can see, in the yellow is our 2021-2022 data as far as the number of students who met their projected rate growth. And then we compare it to the blue, which is this winter's data, and the number of students, again, that met their projected rate growth. As you can see, the majority of schools are showing some improvement. Is it where we want them to be? As I stated, there's some opportunities, but you can also see some celebrations with the growth that you can see happening in some of our schools.
So does this graph show the 50% there? Because you had said that's the national average.
There we go, and I'm glad you pointed that out. So essentially, as you can see, we are not quite where we need to be as far as reaching that 50% of our students meeting the projected rate growth. But you can also look at it and look at Lakewood, 47%. They're very close. You can look at Indian Hills, very close. Crestwood, very close. But then again, I also look at Boone Park going from 30 to 40. And that's huge. And so those are the things that tells us that we're moving in the right direction. May not be achievement, but it is growth. And so it's important to note. So that is our math data. Let's take a look at our reading. And for reading, there's that 50% that you were talking about. So Indian Hills hit that 50%. Look at where they came from. Look at where they are now. They are actually now aligned to what the national norm should be. You can see that for Lakewood as well. You can see Crestwood was just 1 point behind. And again, we're seeing an increase and an improvement within our schools. And the ones that we see that are not doing well, these are the opportunities that we take to talk about. Let's drill down into the data. Let's look at the grade levels. Let's look at our teachers. Let's look at the supports. And to really figure out how we can have some conversations around why and what are we going to do to support that process to help our students to continue to improve. Now this chart, I love this because I was talking to Ms. Jordan and she said, yeah, that chart looks a little different. And it does look a little different. But what I want you to pay attention to is, as you can see, the threshold is a little bit higher. So it doesn't look like we made the growth that we should. But actually, if you look at the data, it's spot on. Lakewood hit 63% of her students meeting projected rate growth in science, above the national average there. 54% for Crestwood, as you can see. Indian Hills, 47. But look at Meadow Park, 53%. Ridge Road, 48%. And then again, we can see the areas that we need some work in, you know. But we're seeing some improvement. Yes.
So do we have a understanding of why we're seeing this huge growth in this area of science?
You know, that's an interesting piece we talked about as a team before. I have some ideas around it, but if the team wants to share, they can as well. I know for elementary, we do not have a science curriculum. However, there are utilizing some of, you know, the nonfiction text and making sure they're exposing kids. And I know kids are interested in science. And so if we engage them in science, as you can see a little bit even more, you know, I think those outcomes will be even greater. So this is really an opportunity for us to look at what are we going to do, especially in the summertime, to start looking at curriculum and resources, and how can we provide that, you know, approach and just a process, a system for our students and also teachers to be able to teach science in the way they should.
Based on their SIP, we asked them to really dive deep into some root causes or where they can show improvement, and science was one of them. That was a low-hanging fruit that they could improve on, so that may have been one of their targets to improve on.
The curriculum that we're using now, remind me what the geodes, remind me what,
is that new for, you want to talk about the geodes?
for reading?
Yes.
And then what are we using for the math? I thought that was like
Eureka
Eureka.
math.
Eureka.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and I could be wrong, but I'm vaguely remembering that there was a science piece to those two puzzle pieces that you two just said, Eureka and, what was the other one?
The geodes, which are
Eureka
part
and
of,
Geode.
that's,
I thought there was a science piece to that. I could be wrong, and I vaguely remember that.
If there is, I don't believe that we're utilizing it.
Okay.
To Eureka, these are the components for math.
Uh-huh.
Geo, some of those reading pieces have science content, and that may help, but usually that is for younger
Yes.
readers. But just the dedication to the science as far as teaching it,
Mhm.
in which we weren't doing a good job with that before. And there are some schools that have been doing connecting writing with science, and that does account for some of the increase in scores.
The science growth. Okay. And maybe that's what I'm remembering, the science element to it, maybe that's what I'm remembering from it. Okay. You're doing great.
All right. No, thank you. Thank you.
secondary.
All right, let's go into secondary schools. As you can see, for secondary schools, one of the things you'll first notice is that there isn't data available for high school and Center of Excellence. And the reason is because we changed our assessments, where it's now focused on Algebra 1, Algebra 2, and Algebra in geometry, rather than taking what we call Math 6+, which is embedded in all of those areas. We need another year to be able to have that solid data to do that comparison. So therefore, we don't have that data. However, we do have data for 6th grade and also for the 7th and 8th grade campus. And as you can see, we're seeing some slight increases there too as far as performance outcomes goes for our math area. For our reading, as you can see, for all of the 4 schools with the exception of 1, and we understand that 1, there's a lot of things happening, but I believe that we're going to jump right back. And so as you can see, positive improvement overall when you look at the growth from the previous last year's scores to the current scores this year.
The high school had good growth.
And then for science, here we go. And for science, again, definitely some positive growth with our students as well. The next area allows you to drill down into the data a little bit more. I thought these links would be important for you if you wanted to dig a little bit more and look at how our performance outcomes are going for our individual grade levels. So I've linked them there in case you have any questions, but I wanted to make sure that you had that available as well. Priority schools are still areas that we'll continue to support and work on, so their data is there as well for us to look at and for questions that you may have, but wanted you to be able to see, you know, how far they've come and where they are right now, and so we've shared that data with you as well. And this is Amboy's data, And of course, it tells you what the, norm is for the national, and then also how far below we are. As you can see for Amboy, there are some areas that are not as significant, and there's some areas that, we worry about. And so their data is available for you to see. It's Boone Park. Shared there's some growth, but there's still opportunities there. Glenview. And Ridge Road. And then I believe we have Summer Street. And then we have the 7th and 8th grade campus.
What's so significant about the third grade? I feel like the third
Yeah, we've
grade-
talked about that. It is significant. What happens is that for the K through 2, the assessment is read to the students. And so when they hit third grade, they have to read it on their own. And that's a shock to them because now they are forced to read, comprehend, and be able to do it on their own. And so that is a huge piece that we need to look at.
It's also the first grade that we start in the accountability testing also starts in third grade.
It shows
Yeah,
third,
Mhm.
from third grade across.
huge, right.
Yeah.
So with that particular test, is it not, it's not a combination of both, it's just strictly where they have to just do it on their own?
On
right?
their own, except for the K through 2.
Okay.
For some reason, the clicker is acting quite interesting, but I think we're going to get there. All right, here we go. So here's our recommended next steps. Number 1, continue to look at our curriculum and determine what's working and what's not working. I believe there's a lot of summer work that we have to do as a curriculum team along with our directors, and so looking forward to that opportunity. 2 is looking at common formative assessments. I shared over and over that this is a piece that I've heard from Dr. Lightfoot since she walked in, and we do need common formative assessments because we need to be able to gauge how our students are performing, and so that we can act more quickly rather than using this data, which is only 3 times a year given. So we need to be able to test our students a little bit more often, use that data, and be able to support our teachers in using it to drive achievement. The next piece that I think we should continue to utilize is the collaboration of the instructional round data presentations that's been happening in schools. It's been such a learning opportunity for our professional leaders to actually come and talk about the state of their schools and to be able to work with their teams to collaborate and share what are the strengths of the schools, what are some opportunities for improvement, and what are the next steps that we're taking to really make sure that we're moving the school forward. And they have to own that process, and it's been awesome to walk and talk and learn from each other and have those important conversations. So really kudos to the team for making sure that this is a piece that's happening because it's important. Continue the professional development. I think that's essential. I'm excited about the calendar opportunity we have for professional development for our staff before school and also, at the end of the year. We need that time to be able to provide that support and resources to our professional staff because there is a lot of work that we want to continue doing so that they feel confident when they walk into the classroom to support our students. Goal setting is important when we talk about our school improvement plans, so that's going to be another focus that we need to work on, making sure that school improvement plans are looked at, that we're looking at artifacts of what it looks like when we put those plans in place, so what are the artifacts and evidence that we have to show that we are moving towards the goals that we've set, so that's quite important. PLCs, data talks, continuing to have those conversations are essential. We're making sure we're encouraging leaders to also be a very vocal part of that as their instructional leaders, along with their coaches, and so that's important. And then continuing to make sure that our professional staff have all they need to be able to do the work in their classrooms and also resources they need in order for them to be able to provide instruction to our students. And so these are some of the next steps that we think will be beneficial as we move forward. And so at this time, I welcome any questions that the team may have.
Did you have a question? A question?
No. No, I don't have a question. I just want to take a moment to recognize those schools that, you know, did meet and had or had significant growth. I mean, that shows a lot, and that shows that we're trending in the right direction. But that meeting, the science portion, where, you know, what just stood out to me was Lakewood and Meadow Park. That is really, really great.
Yes.
And so proud of them for that.
Absolutely.
And
I
just,
agree.
you know, shout out to the teachers too,
Oh,
that
yeah.
started working on getting their, you know, their kids moving in the right direction.
Absolutely.
Dr.
Great information. Thank you. for
Thank
all
you.
your work.
Thank you so much.
Ms. Walker?
I'm all set. It was very self-explanatory. It was good.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's so important to pull this all together, especially for us, and have you explain it. Thank you very much for doing that, and I know that you're going to stay on top of those formative assessments so that you can do those
She won't let it go.
more often than just 2 or 3 times a year. So
Yes.
that's great too. Thank y'all.
Mrs. Ye?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Did you answer my question? How did you calculate the growth of each school?
Okay, and so what we were able to do within the platform is we're able to look at how the students performed in the fall, and then we also use their historical performance data, and so the system is able to calculate what their projections should be, and so they know what those target numbers should look like. And so from there, after they take the assessment, we're able to see if they made some growth, the exact growth that we needed them to make, and we were able to calculate that from looking at the data. And so that's how we do that. And to be honest with you, we had a lot of growth across the board. So, but what was really important to note is, did they meet their growth projection? And so that's what we highlighted. But we did see more growth from students, even if they didn't hit it. But these students, for sure, hit those growth projections. And so,
I certainly thank you for that. Now,
absolutely.
everybody, the stakeholders can understand thoroughly how you came up with a profound report as you did.
Thank you.
We certainly want to thank you for a excellent report, and to know that our schools are doing so well, and to you coaches that are out there, your math, science, and reading, we want to say to you thank you, because with the improvement that we did see, that says a great deal. And thank you, Mrs. Yah.
Yes, you got it. You got it.
Report.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right.
Dr. Polisky.
Thank you, Mrs.
Thank you so
McNulty.
much.
And I also, just while we're transitioning, is, you know, certainly Dr. Hooper's very involved. Miss Lightfoot is very involved in our school performance, Mrs. Jordan. So I do want to recognize all of them and our work with principals in supporting our teachers as we continue to improve.
Everybody on board.
One
Madam-
man, one sound.
That's right. Madam President, members of our Board of Education, our next information item, this is very, very exciting, certainly to me personally, is, and I welcome Dr. Brooke Reynolds, who's our Coordinator of Innovative Virtual Learning, Mr. Sandy Williams, our Director of the North Little Rock Academy. And, you know, one of the things that we've talked about, you know, since our team has arrived, you know, looking at our alternative learning, you know, program, looking at our virtual learning program now that we have it. We're digging now under Dr. Reynolds' leadership as we're starting to look at credit recovery. We're starting to look at, you know, the students, how many students do we have virtual? What's virtual going to look like? And so I do want to, I'm really excited. This is kind of a futuristic look that they have created as leaders of what we think this is potentially going to look like in the future, but more importantly, how it's going to serve the needs of more students. So, Dr. Reynolds, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Dr. Polisky. Good evening, Madam President and the school board. Mr. Williams and I are going to give you some information about our proposal to reconfigure things. It provides stakeholders with the proposal for the School of Innovation, which is kind of a inclusion of Virtual Academy, our ALE program, and the credit recovery program currently at the COE and the high school. So we has a laundry list of collaborators. So these are the folks that all kind of work together on this project. So there's your list of, hopefully I've not forgotten anyone of the importance, but those are who all would work together. The ALE is currently underutilized, and we've run numbers, and we're not at capacity right now with our ALE program. And we want to have the ability to serve more students with flexible scheduling, and of course, more ALE brings in more funding for our school district. We would like to have an addition of a hybrid ALE, which is an option through ADE. And it's mainly, we'd like to focus it for our 11th and 12th grade students that are parents themselves or who have to work full-time to support their families. And the hybrid program it lends to kind of what we do virtually anyway. They don't come to school every single day. They are required to come to school 20% of the time, but must have 51% of direct instruction. So the direct instruction may happen when they're on campus, or it may happen synchronously through a Google Meet or a Zoom type meeting. Then we have our virtual program. We would like to utilize more North Little Rock teachers. This year we currently have 3 teachers working with me and 1 paraprofessional, and we would like to add more North Little Rock teachers teaching virtually, which would be a cost savings and allow us to remain a vital program and viable financially. And lastly, it's the credit recovery program. We are wanting that program to transition to the ALE, because there's a large number of students on the high school campus right now that are below grade level, and that would benefit from being in the ALE program, hopefully to catch them up and to get them graduating on time, which also helps our school district as well. So the first part is kind of the alternative learning, the ALE and the hybrid. It will remain traditional learning for grades 6 through 10. And then if you're an 11th or 12th grader, you may have the opportunity for hybrid instruction. Again, those are kind of the criteria I went over earlier. But if you would be on a case-by-case basis, if you're a student that would need to be hybrid versus going 5 days a week. And again, it's those that have to take care of children themselves, or maybe they need to work to support their family. The high school core classes, if you become a hybrid student, you would get your core classes while you're on campus, and that direct instruction piece, just to make sure the English, science, social, and math get taken care of. Elective classes will still have that synchronous instruction, but they would be when they're away from campus for the elective classes. That's a little bit easier to do virtually, so we would have those done there. We also want to increase our JAG program at the ALE. I'm a former JAG teacher, so I've got
You want to explain, Dr. Rounds, what JAG
Sure,
stands
JAG,
for?
if you're not familiar with JAG, thank you, Dr. Pawlowski, is Jobs for Arkansas's it's Jobs for America's graduates, but we also work well because it's A for Arkansas. So Arkansas also uses it, Jobs for Arkansas graduates. And it is the kind of a work study program, back what we used to think of it as, but students that work get elective credit for having a job. So that would benefit, that we want to get that program working fully, because we know there's students that have jobs, and if you're working 40 hours a week, you need to get that elective credit for having that job. Currently, the ALE utilizes the Edgenuity platform, and we just kind of need to determine, because virtually we use Pearson, they use Edgenuity. We'd like to streamline that. We're working together to try to figure out what's going to be the best program. Another thing we'd like to utilize is have a lab open in the evenings, because students that are ALE are generally behind credits, and so if you're going just a normal school day and have that only opportunity, it's not going to help you catch up. But if the computer lab's open in the evenings, they can stay later and get some work done on certain days of the week that works out for them, so that way they can get caught up and get those credits that they're missing. And of course, that lab, we can have it supervised by paraprofessionals with on-site administrator every time, and we also would need to start some certified teachers, so we need to talk about that piece here in just a moment. So what a sample schedule look like, and so you can see here I kind of come up with something, just what would it, so people can visualize, if I am one of those hybrid students that I'm working, what would it look like for me? And you can see they could come to school during the every other day in the mornings, and then they could go independent work at home or go to their job, and they could even stay and come back for that credit recovery lab in the evening. And if I'm an ALE teacher, what would that look like for me now? I might arrive in the morning. I would have synchronous instruction, And then what may happen there is to kind of help the virtual program out. We would never have them do what we did during the pandemic and teach in-person kids and virtual at the same time, but they may have a class period where they have no one in their room and they teach a virtual section of English, and that's how it would help the virtual program out. Current enrollment, again, this data was pulled on March 3rd. This is what we're talking about. It's being underutilized currently. So we have on the left-hand side of the chart is the current enrollment and what we could have. And again, we've talked about that, and I've given you on the right-hand side the state policies and those types of things. And we can have up to 3% of our district be considered ALE based on our current total district enrollment, not just secondary enrollment. What are our benefits? If you do become a hybrid student for the ALE, you have more time off campus. And again, we do have students that have children or pregnant. The pregnancy numbers data was provided to us by Nurse Green. Those are our current school year numbers. And again, we would be able to have shared resource with the virtual academy. They could be used in the virtual academy teachers may help out with some openings out at the ALE, and the ALE teachers could help out teaching virtually. And we're talking about also reducing behavior, because we may assign students that have conflicts with each other. We could schedule them different times, and that way reduce that behavior situation. Moving to part 2, we talk about what virtual learning again, and we are currently still using Pearson as our virtual learning platform. We would like to continue using Pearson, but again, we're going to work with the academy and decide which one benefits everyone the best. We would like to use more North Little Rock school teachers, which would, reduce cost of our virtual program. Currently, myself and the staff are over at 7th Street Elementary. We'd like to all move out with Mr. Williams for the next school year. Currently, we serve grades, the academy serves grades K through 12. For the next school year, we would like to only serve grades 6 through 12, feeling that the elementary students would be better off in the buildings for the K-5 students. The exception to that would be students that are currently in our program and performing well academically. If they're in elementary, we would let them stay in through duration. We just would not accept any new K-5 students for the next school year. So kind of how it looks, an ALE teacher, like I said, may pick up a section. Some of my current virtual teachers may need to help Mr. Williams out occasionally in different capacities. So we would kind of be a fluid group out there. Pearson teachers, we've kind of learned through this school year, we still have to use Pearson teachers sometimes. Sometimes there's classes that are too small to warrant having a teacher, so it's more beneficial for us just to pay Pearson. Gives us some other options. Some of my students are taking French and German right now, which is fantastic. So those kind of things. And some classes, like I said, that are not offered at the secondary level. And we will continue virtually supporting the high school and COE with classes as needed. Currently, the COE is using us for 2 classes because their teacher shortages. The high school used us as well in the fall for teacher shortages, so it's just a nice way to be able to step in, and students aren't with a sub. They have an actual certified teacher in that area. And again, we want to modify a little bit about the live lessons. If we're using North Little Rock teachers, we can have more requirements on student attending live for next year. So kind of, again, this is virtual learning, how many students that we currently have. Again, that data was pulled the same time in March. And you can see we have 23 elementary students and 140 secondary students. And again, besides those students you see in the chart, those are our 100% virtual students. On the left-hand side, you can see we are serving COE and high school students that are taking classes through Pearson with me. The last part is our credit recovery program. So currently, they are using Edgenuity, and again, we need to determine if we're going to use Pearson or Edgenuity going forward. The current location for all of our credit recovery programs is at our high school campus. We're proposing basically that the credit recovery program will be located over at with Mr. Williams, and kind of there's going to be some criteria as how credit recovery will work. And if you're referred to the ALE, not on grade level, and you have that second criteria, because you have to have 2 different points to be considered an ALE student. One of them is, of course, not performing well academically. Then there's some other criteria. So if they're not performing well academically, meaning they're behind in grade level, and they have that second criteria, we would like to refer them to the ALE campus. And so that way we can, A, maximize the small class sizes, the support that they're given, and hopefully get them back onto grade level and have them return to the high school campus. And you can see down on the bottom bullet point that if they're considered on grade level, this is the number of credits the high school and the COE required for you to be considered on grade level at the beginning of a school year and after the first semester. That's what you're considered to be on grade level, the number of credits you have to have. Right now, kind of how you would get referred to be the ALE student, and they asked me instead of putting freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, because we do have people that are freshmen, but they're in their third year of high school. Or we have people, so they ask us to put it like this. So if I have 2 or less credits after my first year as a high school student, I would be referred to the ALE. So hopefully that makes sense. But because of the fact we do have students that are in multiple years in high school but are not considered a junior or sophomore, so we put it that way. And data was pulled on 310 again for you over there. So currently we have 10% of our population at the high school in credit recovery classes, and 16% of the COE students are in credit recovery classes. So you can see where a lot of our population are taking, now it may just be one class, but there are students that are behind grade level taking multiple classes. Timeline for restructure, we did submit a program approval to DESE to have the ALE hybrid program. We have had to be submitted by March 31st, and it just said we would like to offer that as an option for our older students. Right now, I'm waiting to hear from DESE. When we started all of the virtual programming, we had to submit a digital learning plan. But that's when everybody was going to having to do something virtually. They haven't said yet if we're going to have to renew, but we would be at that point to renew our plan because it's been 2 years. In April as well, we'd like to work with the high school and COE to complete any ALE paperwork for students that may be referred over there. In May, we're going to open up registration again for our virtual academy. Notify the students that you are going to be placed at the ALE for the next school year. We need to determine any staffing needs or how we may need more staff over at the ALE campus. Interview and hire any necessary staff openings. Complete professional development for the staff, because no matter what, someone's going to need training. If we all move to Edgenuity, we'll need training there. If we move to Pearson, we'll need training there. So we'll have to do summer professional development. And of course, if any teachers need help with learning how to be a teacher virtually, I'll be happy to be doing those trainings as well. Schedule students in July and August. And a first week of August, go ahead and have registration again for anybody that didn't get a chance to register for virtual. And then in August, we'd welcome students out to the reinvented campus out at Lynch Drive.
Mr. Williams, thank you, Dr.
Sure.
Brown. Before we open up for questions, Mr. Williams, would you like to add? I know you've been very intimate.
This is the presentation I ever done. I do want to say that when we created Alternative Education for the state of Arkansas, I was a part of that back in 1991. And this model that we have right now is the original model that was created in 1991. But student needs have changed. And we need to bridge that gap from what we started in 1991 to meet student needs. This would get an opportunity to do just that.
Good point.
So, I'm sorry.
Valerie, Ms. McLean.
We have so the 11th and 12th graders would be in the hybrid.
They would have the opportunity if they fit the criteria. They don't automatically become hybrid. But if they are in need, then we filled out the application. So if we have students that need that hybrid program based on the criteria I mentioned, it'd be available. It doesn't automatically mean you have to do it. It's just available if that works better for them. Because we don't want to have dropouts. We don't want to lose students. We're trying to make it work better to keep these students and get them graduated. So no, it doesn't mean you automatically have to be hybrid. It's just, it's there as an opportunity.
So if you are hybrid, though, you would come to the School of Innovation for your
You have to be on campus 20%
in
of the
person,
week.
right? So you have your ALE teachers there, right? And then you have the part where they can do it, I guess, either by Zoom. So is that going to be with
Same teachers. Same teachers.
those same teachers that are there at the School of Innovation? Would be Zooming like a class of
Right.
Yes.
something, and there would be maybe several of these 11th and 12th graders that would be taking that class.
Online.
Okay. And so then y'all would be the ones that are keeping up with their attendance and to see how that. Now, who is who helps them with any kind of counseling that they need, or?
We're providing wraparound services for any students who comes to ALE. So even if you're on a hybrid program, there will be time that you have to be scheduled to come to the school to meet with various personnel to be in order to make sure that you got to check your grade, you got to check how you're doing socially. We're going to do a home visit. All those things are required part of the situation. So it's not like you at home, we forgot about you.
I didn't think y'all would forget about them. Now, you mentioned Pearson. Can I continue here with a few questions? You mentioned Pearson teachers. So are Pearson teachers, they're online,
Correct.
but the district is paying for them. They're not our teachers.
Correct.
That's why they're called
yeah, the-
Pearson teachers,
When
right?
when we switched to that as an option, remember we had all of our teachers that were doing both, and we knew we couldn't stress our teachers out. So when we it kind of was a stopgap in a sense to meet the current needs. But as Dr. Reynolds' leadership, we've got a couple teachers of ours that have been piloting being a virtual teacher this school year. So I think part of this is we know that we're going to have to phase out of that because it's very expensive. I mean, most of that cost is that teacher that we're paying for. So we want to be able to migrate that. And what this option, really what this whole plan is what I really like about it is we're now at a point where we're thinking about student need and thinking about which of these programs is better going to meet your need. You know, when Mr. Williams can talk about this all day long because they're his kids that he served. We have many kids that I've been out there and they're just exhausted. They've worked all night. So maybe that child doesn't need to start at 8 o'clock. They need to start at noon. And so all of this is being tailored, as Mr. Williams said and Dr. Reynolds, is you got to meet criteria. And it's like, well, this might not be the option for Greg, but it might be the option for Miss Williams. And so I think the intake process that they're reimagining and creating is really trying to find out what is going to meet their needs better than what we're doing right now.
And we're always working with the employers to talk with them about the student schedule because many of those students are closing because they have to get out of school at 4 o'clock. So they're working to 12. And then if they're cleaning the place up, they're there longer than that. And so we're trying to work with that because we can't take the student out of their work environment because that's the way they live. I mean, they're actually taking care of their household. And so as a result, that we need to give them opportunity to be able to work and still get their education.
Right. Well, will JAG be located at the School of Innovation?
Yes. Well, a JAG program is you have to have the certified teacher. And so that teacher's job is there's a curriculum they teach as an elective class, and then, of course, that JAG teacher goes out and does those work visits and is another liaison to make sure everything's going okay, they're doing well at work, those types of things. So it would be a teacher, a certified teacher. It's basically, to be a JAG teacher, you just have to be a certified teacher in any subject, and then you have to go through their summer training. That's generally
So
what
that person would be located at the School of Innovation and not at the
And
high
we
school.
already have that person on campus right now.
Oh, you already have
So
that.
we don't have to create a position for that person. We just have to create the situation for that person.
Okay.
want to expand what is currently in place.
Are there more ALE students referred each year than y'all can accept, or?
Indeed. We have students who are waiting to get in there because the process has been difficult for the last couple of years that I know of. And so we're trying to make that streamline that process so that kid can get into ALE and get their needs met sooner rather than waiting 3-4 years. And so we have kids and parents who want their kids to come to ALE because we're kind of changing what we've been doing, and we're trying to change the image of what we've been doing. And that is causing parents and students to look forward for the opportunity to come out to ALE.
ahead, Ms.
Okay. So the alternative learning, we'd already said that it included the online classes. Are those online classes also college classes? Is that two different pathways there? Or do they have an option? So say a child is working outside of the home, they don't need credit recovery, they just need an alternative learning plan, so to say. So are they available and given the option to take online college classes if that is possible?
Well, we don't have anything set up for. I know what you're saying, Ms. Wonka. You know, just more because there are other programs that are people wanting to just have something different. And I don't think we're not set up, but I think that's something we could do eventually after we get through this. You know, get it under our belt. There are some programs where, hey, I'm ahead. I want to work. I want to, you know. But then there's also, they can be a virtual student at that point too with me. Just, you know, because I do have quite a few seniors that are taking their last 2 classes and they're working 40 hours a week as a virtual student. Right. So that may be, you know, right now we don't offer college classes, the concurrent piece. We do have all the AP classes. But at that point, they could become a virtual student, you know.
But what we will be offering, nevertheless, however this situation goes, what we're looking to offer, we've been meeting with companies who do like heavy machinery training, who are training in plumbing and things along those lines, because our kids are more prone to go to work than the other way. And so somebody has to bridge the environment while all these people are in college for 4 years. And so we're trying to offer that opportunity for our kids so they can get some work experience and they'll be able to transition into a real job. There's a company called WordLink that we've been meeting with that has introduced us to. And we got a couple of kids who are going to start this summer, and they will have truck driver license in 2 months. And so we're trying to do those things because those kids are going to be work ready and soon so they can make a living for their family.
Okay.
And I just wanted to add to that. I mean, this is where Miss Wells's work comes in, Miss Hatch's works come in. But what it also comes in to link into the LEARNS Act is going to be the new work-ready diploma. And so this is preparing the infrastructure to be able to offer work-ready diploma, to be, you know, job-ready as soon upon graduation.
Okay. Just again, along the lines of thinking outside of the box, because that's where we're at. Have we considered the children or students that are doing the manual labor right now and say they need a PE credit? Have we thought about maybe helping bridge that? I mean, if they're doing manual labor, why is that not a PE credit? In my opinion, it's better than jumping jacks and
well, there's standards that we have to meet, right, that are in physical education. But I certainly applaud you're thinking differently, and that's exactly what this whole redesign is trying. We haven't traditionally, as a school district, been meeting the needs that are out at ALE, and as Mr. Williams said, there's a stigma that it's that's where all the bad kids go, and what they've re-envisioned is more about student need, and so they're changing the vision of what alternative learning looks like, sounds like, and feels like.
And Ms. Wanton, the State Department allow a ALE program to develop course code for classes that don't fit the normal situation. So we could definitely look into those types of situations.
Yeah, just thinking again of bridging that gap, since we're already thinking outside of the box. So you briefly touched on the cost of ALE and bringing in more students. So I'm making the assumption that, say we can let more students in.
Yes.
I know there is, say, an extra $2 to the student. How does that cost comparison on what we're offering and then what we're bringing in? Does that make sense?
You want to talk? Or?
Well, you know, actually, when you look at an ALE kid, and I hate to just put it out like this, but you're looking at about $15,000 per kid. Okay, when you get finished with what you get for a regular kid, normal situation, and what you get in ALE in addition. Right. So then, when you're looking at those numbers and your immediate needs of those kids, if you offer those kids opportunity to develop and to grow, then you're going to have more kids coming in. I think the only deal is that you have to make sure that you're not over that 3% of the
total population.
Standard. Correct. But we're going to meet the total need of the child. And I think that's what's happening right now, is that we'll put ALE in a box where we're talking about what the adult want. And we have to move away from what the adult want. We have to move to what the kid needs.
There you go.
So that's what we're doing.
That's a good shift.
Can I have an amen,
Shift.
Mr. Williams?
That's a good shift.
About to take us to church.
Dr. Reddick?
I'm just excited. I'm hoping that everything goes well and it's approved. Because yes, we need to meet the needs of the students, and we have a lot. I don't want to see a lot of dropouts because I may not be a college ready student. We have a lot of students that want to go, straight to work, or they're already working, and so I'm excited, and so I'm just hoping. Thank you for all of your work and your information, and go forth and conquer.
Ms. Temple?
Yeah, I like this too. I just had one clarification. You said that there's qualifications, like they're behind in their credits or something else. But,
Go ahead.
but my question is, if, let's just say, I'm not behind in my credits and I want to go to work, I mean, is that,
That would also, again, kind of like answer Ms. Walker, they can just be a virtual student for now. Now if they don't mind, if they can handle the virtual piece of it versus, having to sit there for a little bit to get. Of course, like I said, we want to beef up our virtual support by having the North Little Rock teachers. If I'm a senior and I just need a handful of classes to graduate, I can take them virtually. I can work a lot of flexibility there, and then I can go work.
okay.
Go
So
work about that, however many hours I need or whatever I need to do that way.
Well, Ms. Temple, was your question about if I'm not in credit recovery, if I'm just in?
Well, I guess I'm just trying to understand how somebody gets in there, and do we know how many students fit that need, like how many could go?
So there is a list of criteria that the State Department has for a kid to come to ALE. Many of those are attendance, you're highly mobile, you are homeless,
Okay.
you're a parent, you're single parent, whether you're male or female. There's so many criteria, not just being credit deficient. The only reason that a kid cannot come to ALE is for disciplinary punishment.
Okay.
Other than that, you can.
Right, 'cause you've got to meet multiple criteria. You just,
That's established for us.
Yeah.
correct.
Yes,
Yep.
okay.
That's what
All
it
right, I've seen that list before.
is. Yes.
Ms. West?
Thank you.
I like what I'm hearing as far as just even taking like the stigma of ALE, changing that outlook of it. And I was just thinking how, a lot of times if you take a certain child that have barriers already and they're able to graduate and have a skill or have some type of trade under their belt, and that will definitely, I feel, in the long run, decrease future crime rates and give them a sense of accomplishment for themselves. And that, to me, makes me happy because I just see a lot of good that this can help with as far as, if they're able to graduate and drive trucks not too long after high school, then, they're on the road, they're doing something, they're productive, they're able to make money. And that's kind of what a lot of times you fall victim to crime is because of lack of money or lack of resources. So I think that'll definitely give a good opportunity there. And I mean, I was just sitting here thinking we have all that land out there. I mean, we can have a landscaping program. I mean, because there's a lot of stuff that you can do out there. And, for the good of society.
So some of the things that we have done is like Ms. Hance has been really helpful with this, with all those things. Like we met with Game and Fish, and we talked about putting the pond out and letting them stock it, and then teaching our kids how to fish, and then teach them all the jobs that happen with Game and Fish. Well, Game and Fish will do that. We have a meeting in about a week and a half or so with a construction company, and we're gonna take our kids to the construction company so they can see all the fashion of what happened, and they will work with them because they can't find workers. And in 2 weeks, we're going to Mims to do the same thing because they can't find workers. And all these jobs are $60,000, $70,000 jobs. And so kids can come right out of high school already with a certificate and be ready for that work.
I like it.
And Mr. Williams, just to give a sneak preview, it's my understanding, sir, your students are going to come and present
Yes, sir.
at the next regular board meeting.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We took a group of kids, Ms. Hass there again, down to the pond or the bayou or whatever that thing is down there. And,
Mr. Williams.
and they had the opportunity
Whatever
to
that is.
put on waivers and walk out into the water and test the water for contaminant, identify the creatures that were in the water, and they loved that. And so they're going to get an opportunity to come this year.
Yeah, come and present.
Everybody.
You got it, madam.
Oh, and Dr. Reynolds, while you were talking, you and Mr. Williams, you know, the Innovation Hub, also in North Little Rock, down on Broadway, it offers a 2-year, when those students, they'll take anybody in the North Rock School District. And I know for a fact, after the first year that they've been down there, those kids come, the young women and men now are coming out with $47,000 jobs because of the innovation. And I certainly hope that you all will get involved in that one, where we may not can get everything we need at one time, but that's, I don't know about the cost of the innovation, but a hub down there, but I know it is a total successful program that has been going on. And so since you all are talking about innovation, motivating our students, getting rich jobs, thank you, Dr. Paluski.
Well, thank them.
you.
And
And now, one other question I had. I know you said 23, 24 year, well, coming up, that you will not be serving K through 5 anymore. But you did put stipulations in there. I know of a parent in my neighborhood, a grandparent, her child is so successful academically since he's been in your program. And so what you're saying, they can stay in there when you know that perhaps maybe a behavior problem or that child feels more comfortable out of a large setting. So would you kind of
Medical.
hit that again for me?
Sure, absolutely. If they're currently in our program, we're not gonna ask them to leave. They can stay with us. We're just
Okay.
not accepting any new K through 5 students.
Okay.
But if they're with us already, performing well, they absolutely can stay with us.
Oh, that's great, because some people are just giving North Rock praises on the virtual for their elementary. You know, it's really been helpful. And also, how have you been able to communicate with the Hispanic community when they come into our district and say that their child is not accustomed to large crowds and want to be in that program? What process do you all usually use?
Well, normally if we put out the registration, so anyone can register. We usually put it out in Spanish and in English if they want to register for the virtual program. We always want to support this, our Hispanic students. Sometimes it's more difficult because if they're not, if they're reading in English, now of course the program we use does read to them. We can highlight and it reads everything to them. But if that's something they want to do, and we do have several Hispanic students currently in our program, and the ESL teachers that are a part of the building, they usually do that support as well if they need any kind of additional supports because they're still considered part of them.
Well, question to that is, how do you all translate to students that have poor English performance?
Well, if they're on, like I said, if they're on the Pearson platform with us right now, then it will read it to them. Unfortunately, it does not translate the whole, word for word reading to them, but it will. There is a piece that it will read it to them.
Oh, so you all do have someone in your department?
No, I don't. No, I do not have an ESL person in my department. We utilize the building ESL.
Okay,
teachers.
you utilize the board. I was just trying to figure out, did you have what you needed to meet the needs of every student in
Right
our
now,
district?
the ESL students we currently have are able to do the work, that they do have that support, but we have probably about 4 or 5 that are with us right now, but they're able to perform all the work, and they're doing really well, the ones that are with us.
And Mr. Williams, you're still following the process of how they can get in your program. It's not about somebody saying, I want to go, but it has to be recommendations.
There has to be a recommendation. Those students have to meet criteria, and then we have to write process plan before they attend the school.
Have the principals learned, well, I'd say assistants now, because most of the time they're dealing with the discipline. Have they learned how they can get placement in the program? Because that's been the biggest issue. See, they want to say, I think little Johnny ought to be in there because he been in trouble. That doesn't work.
That's right.
That's not the conversation that's supposed to be used. That's why I'm asking you, maybe perhaps you all need to have a little training or something this summer
Well,
before school come.
what has happened, Dr. Williams, is that Mr. Logan, the new executive director of Student Centered Service, has taken over that part of the process, and we streamlined that process through a committee, and it is a lot better than it once was.
Well, that's a blessing. All right, thank you. Anything else, Dr. Pelosi?
No, I just want to commend Dr. Reynolds and Mr. Williams, and I know a whole team, and I just applaud your work and reimagining and re-envisioning how we can better meet the needs of our students. And I think this is just another example of how we're changing and how we're evolving on our vision about being future ready for all of our students. So I applaud your leadership.
Agreed.
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 Very good. Thank you, Mr. Williams and Dr. Reynolds. Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
We appreciate you for all that you're doing. And that academy person was in here. She left, didn't she?
There's
Oh.
Ms. Wells.
Right. Thank you for all your support, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
We appreciate you. Is there anything else?
No, ma'am. Those are
You all may be dismissed.